MCC location, and the invite is to all council.
And I know that councillors Corbis and Sutherland have been there. Is there any interest of who's going this year?
Well, I just have to check with my schedule for November, but if not, then I can go.
Okay. Councillor Sutherland,
Attend.
you at Grand Marais? Okay.
Yeah, because the one at Broken Head,
That's,
it's not on
we
the
haven't
11th.
gotten
We
it,
always
and
attend
it's
that.
usually on the 7th. It's on
Yes.
Aboriginal Veterans Day.
But usually you also get invited to the one at Selkirk.
Yeah, Deborah,
Yes.
you going to the one in Selkirk this year?
I hope to,
Okay.
but if I can't go, like, that's why kind of this was good that this came up, because depending on who's going where. And I guess, you know, at that time of year, for me, it's sometimes weather dependent. If I'm gonna take a ride to Grand Marais, if Councillor Sutherland's not going, because I know a lot of times we do drive together, so. Anybody else interested in going to Grand Marais for the Remembrance Day ceremony? The other two we haven't received yet. so.
I've gone to the Selkirk one in lieu of whoever couldn't make it before, so.
Right. Okay, so if you just leave it as,
Mayor
Mayor,
Feeble-Corn
yeah.
and council.
yeah,
Resolve Mayor Feeble-Corn and council be authorized to attend the Remembrance Day ceremony in Grand Marais Community Central on November 11, 2024.
mover please. Councillor Boulanger, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And Vital Signs Community Conversation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was just received on the 20th of this month, so I waited an extra because I was a little out of town when I received it originally. And this is occurring on October 5th before our next council meeting. So it was important to bring it forward as soon as possible. And what they're inviting is council members to partake in the community conversations related to vital signs and vital statistics that they are completed by the Selkirk District Community Foundation. And it's on October the 5th, 10 to 2. They will provide coffee and a light lunch.
Anybody have interest in going to this one?
I would, but I'm out of town. Sorry.
That's okay. Well, the only reason I ask is because it is the same day as the Selkirk Fire Department open house. So, put my name in there and I'll see what I can figure out. I will go. Yes, I know you. You're gone.
Okay, so resolve Mayor Feeble-Corn be authorized to attend the Selkirk District Community Foundation community event for Vital Signs Community Conversation on October the 5th, 2024 in Selkirk Memorial Hall.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazrode, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, that takes us down to number 8 on our agendas, which is new and other business. And the first item we have is 8.1, the Waychuk easement agreement.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an easement agreement associated with Mr. Waychuk. And this was for the water line that's crossing his property and along the property. Mr. Waychuk and his wife have come and signed it, and we're prepared to sign ours. This was, we were required to go on to the Mr. Waychuk's property as we weren't able to go along the service road there.
Okay, any questions? If you want to bring the resolution forward.
Quick comment?
Sure.
You would know more about this than I do. That field that it goes through is a future development potential for him. Could that water line be stubbed into to bring water into
Yes.
that? Okay,
That's why Mr. Waychuk was okay with
that's what I'm, that's,
it coming,
yes.
although it did take away some of, to address your question, let me just bring up the screen to show you. So the water line coming from a water treatment plant is going south along Highway 59. There's some debate as to the benefit for Mr. Waychuck, and it does restrict some ability to farm some of that land at this point. We've been able to do the easement, he can certainly continue to farm it, but it restricts some development, to be able to develop on that land, because you got to put a house on the water line.
No,
So
but
they're getting a-
I saw them put the line in and it's not that, it didn't take up the big footprint.
No, but we need still a large footprint for
Yep.
the easement because of the equipment to be able to get in there. And so, but the line, as it begins to go west, there is advantage. And there will be also advantage that he can connect anywhere along when it's going south and connect it to it as it's a water line and it's not a pressurized sewer line, there's no issues.
Perfect.
And then what it does is it cuts across there. What we did was, the council doesn't remember, or I don't know if I remember telling you, what we did was we also ran a line across over to the public works yard. And so now we have a water line going in there, so they've been able to stop using the well at the public works site. And then it goes along Henderson after that.
Okay, if you have a resolution, then forward.
Whereas the property legally describes as Lot A and C, Plan 12338, and the property legally described as Lot B, Plan 12391, required an easement for the purpose of installing a water line to service the southern part of St. Clements, and whereas administration has directed to register the plan and easement agreement, therefore be it resolved, the mayor and CAO execute the agreement with the property owner.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Spicer seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And
Now,
just a note, Madam Mayor,
Sorry.
Mr. Waychuck has been very cooperative on this, because there's been no cost to the RF for this easement agreement either.
okay, so moving on, that takes us to our gravel, or our road maintenance policies.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you may recall, council had instructed the administration to come back with 3 different policies as part of the public hearing process for the budget. And in the budget, they asked us to work on a gravel road maintenance policy, a policy relating to hard surface roads, and so that we can communicate exactly when and how it's determined which roads require reconstruction or rehabilitation, and as well as a policy on the development of asphalt roads. We're converting from gravel to asphalt. When was it, and when would it be likely make sense? For those, we've completed those. Council had given us a 30-day extension, and our 30-day expired as of this month. And the reports and the policies have been entered. These will be our public works policies once adopted by council today. The policies come forward. There was reports written for each of the policies to further explain what the policies are. And what I have is some quick presentations to walk us through the policies that are created. So the first one that I'll be discussing with you is the gravel road maintenance policy. This policy is intended as to establish guidelines for the management and maintenance of our existing gravel roads. What are some of the basic requirements, and in order to give direction to public works, and as they begin to develop procedures and processes in managing our various gravel roads. It helps to enhance the road safety and accessibility and the overall quality. That's the goal, in order to make sure that the roads are accessible, and also for the public works to take into consideration certain things related with accessibility and quality. So what are the major objectives? The objectives are as always has been, which is to maintain and improve the condition of our gravel roads, ensure the safe and accessible travel on all roads for all users, and establish a systematic approach to gravel road maintenance. So in developing that, there was a there's a road surface maintenance processes that have been identified in the policy statements related with grading, surface drainage, dust control, material applications, what type of materials, how often, subgrade repair and stabilization, as well as drainage management. All those things have been identified in these policies. Specific procedures have been established that include detailed steps for grading, dust control. As you know, we have a separate policy on dust control, so this marries in with the dust control policy. For material applications, so this is where the gravel roads get categorized for receiving more material application. As has been, the dust control policy was to establish how much and where to establish the dust control and how often. And this policy will help to help deal with those situations that council has directed us on. Things such as the CIL road, where we apply additional dust control and a wider path in order to keep because of the usage on that road, keep the road stable. As well as drainage management. And some of that drainage management is sometimes the restructuring and rebuilding those gravel roads. Yes, sir.
This kind of ties in with what we did with our 3 roads this year, Pioneer, McKay. Does this kind of
Yes, it does.
speaks to that?
It's not only speaks to that, it specifically identifies it
Okay.
as part of that, and
I
what it
read it.
does in the policy statement specifically on that, where it talks to is, just grab the right policy report. It says in subgrade repair and stabilization, specifically says roads may need work like rehabilitation, which involves regrading the subgrade material, mulching, reclaiming and graveling, and adding base material and road stabilization product. Exactly what's been done on Pioneer, McKay, and Old Henderson. So, and it also covers another thing that council had identified, dealing with rutting and washboarding and potholes on gravel roads. And so, responsibilities are also clearly outlined in policy statements, and in this case, the responsibilities are Public Works Department is responsible for the implementation and enforcement of the policy. Regular inspections are to be conducted to ensure compliance with policy guidelines. So what that does, it gives direction to Public Works Management to make sure that regular inspections are also being completed on each of these roads, which then, as part of the policy, makes sure that we're documenting this for future councils and future residents' concerns. An annual review has been identified in here, where a policy will be reviewed annually and amended as necessary. And the reason that you'll see that all of these policies have an annual review, because part of the work that we did as we were working on these policies is that we learned that there are no detailed policies like this anywhere within our rural areas of Manitoba. So we will be leading in having council adopted policies related to these things, and then an opportunity to be able to then measure and determine what's needed from those.
They don't exist in some other provinces,
Exactly, there are some, but not very many.
not very many.
And they're usually in much more busier areas. So one of the things that this policy does, and I think it's important because these meetings are being recorded to discuss that with you, is it allows for developing a mechanism of, and these policies are available online for our residents to see, but it identifies measuring these particular roads and how they're meeting those requirements. So it begins to identify when application of dust control is, material, gravel and crushed stone, what to do, how to do drainage management, ditch maintenance. So a road will be maintained to proper flow of water away from the road, so they understand that these things have to be completed on a regular basis.
Quick comment on the regular inspection. I think you said, but I'm not sure if you did you say that they are going to track when they're doing their inspections? Like they'll make a note of it or no?
Yes, the intent is for them to make a note of it,
Okay.
so that we can then report back on a regular basis. And that's why the annual review, so it gives us an ability, gives council and the administration the ability to see what's working, what's not working, and how we can modify this to become a long-term policy. So conclusion on this is that we're recommending approval. It'll provide improved road conditions, enhanced safety and accessibility for all road users. It will be an effective way of managing policy, and it provides a framework for efficient and effective gravel road maintenance. So with that in mind, council members, the administrative report that's been supplied with this gravel road policy recommends approval. The administration recommends that council adopt the gravel road maintenance policy to establish a comprehensive framework for managing and maintaining gravel roads within the municipality, and that we are required to implement a road assessment scoring methodology to objectively evaluate and prioritize road maintenance needs. So along with this, we're also developing methodology so that they can be clearly understood what's being done, and a resolution has been provided for council if council wishes to proceed.
Any questions from council for administration? No, I think you can bring the resolution forward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the rural municipality of St. Clements recognizes the importance of maintaining gravel roads for the safety and convenience of residents and visitors, and whereas gravel roads require regular maintenance due to traffic, weather, and other factors, therefore be it resolved that Council of the Rural Municipality of St. Clements hereby adopts the gravel road maintenance policy as presented, effective immediately, to guide the management and maintenance of gravel roads within the municipality.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Sutherland, a second, please. Councillor Spicer, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so we can move on to 8.2, which is the hard surface road rehab and reconstruction, or 8.3, I should say, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, we provided an administrative report outlining the details related to the policy, and then what we have is a copy of the policy, and I have a presentation associated to cover through this. This particular policy was through the direction of council, and as part of the direction from council, a resolution was passed from council at the budget process. The resolution specifically stated, whereas the rural municipality of St. Clements recognizes the importance of maintaining hard surface roads for the safety and convenience of residents and visitors, and whereas hard surface roads are subject to wear and tear over time due to traffic, weather, and other factors, and whereas addressing road deterioration promptly can prevent more extensive damage and reduce long-term costs, therefore be resolved administration report back in 90 days with a list of previous hard surface roads and estimated costs for reconstruction. The administration has already worked on the administration of previous hard surface roads, but it's also, what we did was we combined not only the hard surface roads, the previous hard surface roads, but all hard surface roads into one policy that can manage and deliver on that, and that's what we're bringing forward for you tonight. And so on that, I provided a presentation again on this, and this presentation. So it wasn't just for rehabilitation of existing hard surface roads, it's also for reconstruction wherever is necessary. Felt that a one long parcel. The reason that we felt it was important as opposed to separating it was that we needed a comprehensive policy to maintain and reconstruct hard surface roads so that they can be, as you know, it also puts 1 mil rate into a policy to replace existing hard surface roads. We felt that this policy will help us to understand how that 1 mil rate is being accomplished, and as well as if we need to add in existing plans in the future. Council's direction was to establish a policy to address road deterioration and prevent extensive damage. That was the intent here. The goal is to develop a defensible policy that aligns with the industry standards and considers budget constraints. So at the end of the day, council makes the final decisions on budgets, but we need to have some industry standards, as there are always opinions whenever you're working on roads, why one road is being done over another. from our residents, and this is an attempt at creating a policy that can hopefully avoid some of that by providing detailed analysis. So the policy framework that's been identified in here is to recognize the importance of maintaining hard surface roads, acknowledge the wear and tear on the roads over time, emphasize the need to address deterioration promptly. So and require the administration report on the road inventory and costs on a regular basis. And as you know, we have a list of all our hard surface roads that council has shared with over the 20 years of a 20-year plan with a 5-year budget that we work on. The purpose of this policy is to provide definitions, responsibilities, procedures, funding, and review the process. So addressing council's resolution for this, what we felt was important was, first of all, identify the inventory requirement for an upfront, up-to-date inventory of all hard surface roads. So something doesn't get missed in the future, and we know what kind of an asset management we need to have and what we need to do with that asset. Identification of processes for roads that need maintenance or reconstruction. So how do we identify which roads need maintenance and reconstruction, and do we have the appropriate budget so council can make an informed decision? Cost estimates, requirements to prepare the cost estimates for those reconstruction projects. So the cost estimates can come in and understand what can be done and whether we can deliver on everything that's there. A mechanism for the CAO to present these plans and cost estimates to council, which is the budget process on a yearly basis. So, the resolution, we felt that the 5-year planning cycle for road maintenance and reconstruction was appropriate, that we would identify the roads as in our 20-year plan, but in the 5-year plan, things could adjust as necessary. We identified that there needs to be inspections, regular inspections, and a condition assessment. And how do we develop that condition assessment? I'm going to cover some of those things. And the prioritization, again, how do you prioritize? Which roads are more important? How can we determine the roads more important as we looked at what's been happening in other municipalities and other areas? So there are certain classifications of roads. We don't have any real classification of roads in the rural municipality, and so we felt that there were other ways of measuring similar to what happens in larger cities, such as arterial roads and regional roads and local roads and so forth. The funding provisions were to also identify, to explore additional options for funding. An example of some of those options are TIF financing and other types of ways of dealing with roads. So in order to do that, we felt the scoring methodology would be appropriate. Again, we did the research, met with managers, and Kevin talked with the public works managers that he deals with regularly. I did a fair amount of research. We couldn't find anything that was anything close to being a proper policy around this. There's asset management methodologies established, obviously, but this is beyond that. What is the scoring methodology? How do you determine which roads are what? And beyond just doing how many cars go across the road. So scoring of the categories were established for road condition, traffic volume, and strategic importance. So strategic importance comes down to those special types of roads that are connecting a community that are very critical. If they go down, you lose connectivity in your community. Road conditions were identified for detailed criteria such as surface cracking, potholes, rutting, edge deterioration, and drainage. All those have been identified in the policy. Traffic volume based on the average daily traffic. So once the traffic counts are, then what do those counts mean? And obviously the more a road is used, there's more volume, more wear and tear. Means more maintenance, more on management, and a closer attention to the material used on those roads. Strategic importance was connectivity to emergency routes and economic impact. Scoring process would be done on an annual basis, scoring each road segment and prioritizing based on total scores. Obviously, this will take some time on some of those things, but it aligns directly with our asset management policy. Prioritization, grouping those road segments into priority levels. So, An existing road can have a road segment that can be very critical to replace. Well, several miles down, it doesn't have as much traffic as it does because it's a collector and brings traffic in. Okay? Reporting to council annually and then review. Again, a review and adjustment of this methodology, because we're going to learn as we go through time, since we are somewhat leading in this type of policy development, we'll learn from it. Benefits of the scoring methodology. It helps us to provide an inventory. It provides an opportunity to do proper inspections in a structured manner with annual inspections, and it gives an opportunity to provide an assessment for the rating of those roads, which roads need to be done and when. And so in this, what we've developed is a comprehensive policy. The policy provides a solid foundation, in my humble opinion, of managing hard surface roads in the Arm of St. Clements that hasn't existed before. Scoring methodology that hasn't existed before, that supports objective and consistent assessment and prioritization. And finally, implementing this policy and methodology where the RM can effectively manage its road infrastructure in an open and transparent manner. And that's the intent here. And so with that, council members, what we're recommending is that the policy recommending that the council adopt the hard surface road rehabilitation reconstruction policy to establish a comprehensive framework for managing and maintaining hard surface roads within the municipality. We're also recommending that we implement the assessment scoring methodology, so that's something new that's happening here, to objectively evaluate and prioritize road maintenance and reconstruction. In addition, we're recommending that we have a 5-year planning cycle for the road maintenance and reconstruction projects to be reviewed and updated annually. And that will deal with any of the previous hard surface roads if necessary. And then explore additional funding sources such as grants or partnerships to support road rehabilitation and reconstruction projects. One of the other things that we're identifying here in this policy is using that scoring methodology, giving options for people to get road works done. So we prepared a resolution. If it's okay, Madam Mayor, I will read the resolution now, unless there's some questions from council.
Any questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Mr. CEO, you talked about how this relates to asset management. In truth, this is an asset management policy in a way, because first of all, it makes us do an inventory, which you need for asset management, and it also does an assessment, which you need for asset management. I mean, it goes a little further because it's a decision-making policy, but at the same time, the decisions we make on maintenance can change the scoring methodology, which then changes the decision-making on the reconstruction.
Correct. It could be argued that this could be your asset management plan for these types of roads and an asset management strategy. Asset management obviously requires additional reporting mechanisms, but this goes a long way to supporting what the federal government is requiring, the municipality when dealing with the road assets. There are still other components that go along with this, such as all these hard surface roads, because we're still a rural municipality, have culverts under them, and those culverts need to be maintained and managed, and they are also part of that infrastructure. So how do you go about identifying each one of those culverts that need to be also replaced in the cost? And the intent of asset management is to say, okay, so you have so much infrastructure in your community, this is how much it's going to cost to continue to maintain it. And then you have to determine what level of maintenance you want to have on those. Because there's no way we could have them every road in pristine condition with without sacrificing other things.
Okay, go ahead then.
Okay. Whereas the Rural Municipality of St. Clements recognizes the importance of maintaining hard surface roads for the safety and convenience of residents and visitors. And whereas hard surface roads are subject to wear and tear over time due to traffic, weather, and other factors, and whereas addressing road deterioration promptly can prevent more extensive damage and reduce long-term costs, therefore be resolved that Council of the Rural Municipality hereby adopts the hard surface road rehabilitation reconstruction policy as presented, effective immediately, to guide the management, maintenance, and reconstruction of hard surface roads within the municipality.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowitz, second. Councillor Sutherland. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Now we come to the last policy. This one is the more detailed of the other policies, mainly because it deals with creating more assets and more expensive assets for an RM, and dealing with the requests of our residents who are dealing with asphalt roads. So what I've completed here is we've created a policy with the administrative report and a conversion policy to deal with gravel roads and identification of those gravel roads for when they would be required or recommended to be converted over to asphalt road. It also deals with the situation that not all roads are necessarily in need of conversion, but sometimes there's requests being received for conversion, so it deals with the possibility of what are the mechanisms of paying for that.
Just a question, yeah. It would be at our discretion, not that we have a point system, and a certain road falls into that, so now we have to pay them.
No.
It'll be, we're kind of protecting ourselves that we don't have to act on something.
Correct. One is to determine when there's a request or a decision by, it could be a council member or even council's decision to look at completing a road, that the first order of business is to do an evaluation of that road and apply the point system and bring it back to council. If a request came from the public or somewhere else, it was to have an open and transparent system of measuring and providing methodology on how we determine. Based on that, that information is provided back to council. The council still votes because council still controls the budget.
Yeah.
And council has to sometimes make the hard decision. Roads over fire trucks over recreation vehicles over staffing.
Yeah, we're not held to our policy,
Correct.
okay, it's falls within those parameters, we have to do it, don't
No.
we? Yeah,
Yeah, council
Just-
still has to
just to
vote on doing the
yeah,
work.
yeah,
Correct. And it'll be completed on a yearly basis
yeah.
to be able to do that, correct. So, with that, I'll walk us through this policy. And so, on the asphalt road conversion policy, again, this situation was, we felt there was, a need was to create a clear policy when we were looking at converting gravel roads to asphalt. As an example, you already have a policy that was established a couple of years ago here in the RM, which was that since there was an abundant amount of, or a significant concentration of hard surface roads in a settlement area such as East Selkirk, that you wouldn't allow future subdivisions to occur without them requiring to be hard surfaced, because it created a significant amount of conflict where you had gravel roads and hard surface roads. So new construction, it was given that there's a policy associated with it. Now what you have is there are existing roads throughout the RM and that might have been developed that maybe should have been hard surfaced based on traffic volumes and other things. This will help you establish some of those in the future, but for now, how do you deal with a clear policy to convert gravel roads and which ones to asphalt? Council's direction is still needed, not only to create a policy based on usage patterns and carrying classifications, but also to develop a defensible industry standard policy And so we went out there, took a look at industry standard measurements that are already being used out there, and that balance infrastructure needs with fiscal responsibility. At the end of the day, fiscal responsibility, as you asked, Councillor Sutherland, is still the responsibility of council, with the best recommendations from the administration. And that council then makes that final decision based on fiscal capacity. And so with that, a policy framework's been established. Key factors, first, determine traffic, look at traffic volumes on existing gravel roads. So this is different than existing hard surface already. So these are, that could become hard surface. We'll take a look at connectivity, similar to the other ones. Economic impact, safety maintenance costs, environmental factors would be taken into consideration here. You weren't looking at environmental factors with the hard surface roads, where you might look at it here, where the environment, like, you know, it's better for the environment to be able to go to a hard surface over a gravel or gravel over a hard surface because of these surrounding areas. And then development plans. So if you're increasing in the type of development occurring, so your policies for creating your roads should align with your planning documents. So your planning documents that identify settlement centers and where your concentration of development is occurring, you know the demand is going to get higher there. So now you can establish policies related with that. Evaluation criteria on this case, first order consideration is annual average daily traffic of over 400 annual average traffic cars per day is to be taken into consideration first. Then, based on that, if it's over 400, which puts it as a high priority, if it's less, then a prioritization process should be established. If they're all over 400, then you may have to re-establish and re-examine what's the actual number that you want to take a look at. Then you take a look at the prioritization process, which is the annual assessments and a public consultation if necessary within the community or by council. That could be the budget process, as an example. A budget process is a public consultation. Funding mechanisms, municipal funding or cost sharing or grants should all be taken into consideration as part of this. And acquiring it as an asset. Because every asset you inherit or create that requires maintenance requires funding for the future. That's why council looks at the development plan to determine where we should be building roads and where we're encouraging development, because you're trying to utilize the existing infrastructure to the best of its abilities and maximize its use. An implementation plan with a 5-year rolling plan with annual updates. So take a look at what's happening, and as we've been moving to a 3-year budget process with a 5-year capital budget, this aligns with that 5-year capital budget plan. Monitoring and review, regular evaluation, because development, you set the direction for development, but development is guided by the development industry in many ways. It's supply and demand, it's demand from the who supplies it, and at the end of the day, development occurs based on many factors, and if that's occurring, then you may need to review and say, this year didn't make sense to do a conversion, but next year may, or you're seeing something coming in the next 3 to 5 years. As an example, we did a plan for looking at a roundabout for safety considerations on Coville, mainly because we knew the densification that's occurring and what's been approved and what may be coming in the future to plan out a community better. And so the scoring methodology is a scoring system based on 100 points. Okay? Weighting, heaviest weight on the traffic volume. Next is followed by connectivity. So, and the next after that is economic impact. You know, connecting roads for people going to your community centers, your schools, and other resources, hospitals, if we put one in the RM, or those kinds of things will be taken into consideration. Other factors such as safety, So if there's a significant amount of accidents happening, obviously you want to take a look at those types of infrastructure points. Maintenance costs, if your maintenance is increasing, because you're constantly having to put in additional, because remember, now you put in a gravel road policy. Gravel road policy will dictate how much graveling you're doing and grading. And if you're beginning to do that significantly more, then that has a factor on whether they should be converted, because it may become cheaper to not have to do that, right? Environmental factors are taken into consideration, as well as development plans. So what are the future development plans? Then prioritization guidelines are established: high, medium, low priority based on those total scores. On that, then cost sharing factors happen. And so what happens? So what this policy is recommending, you have to score over 80 points, where it's 100% funded by the RA. Anything below that has a different funding mechanism associated with it. And that's the intent of this policy. And so, as an example on that scoring methodology and development that's been developed by the staff, we've identified several different things like traffic connectivity, as I mentioned, all those other factors. But then when you get to doing that scoring methodology, and we get to that point, this would be completed on an annual basis. So as an example, they would take a look at traffic volumes, which is done on an objective measurement tool that's used, not just an estimate of traffic volumes. Connectivity is taken into consideration, where a road is connecting a major highway or a primary route between communities, as opposed to a secondary route with moderate connectivity importance, as opposed to low connectivity. A dead-end street is low connectivity. It's only servicing those residential users or business users, even if necessary. And then economic impact. Is there a major industrial commercial area that needs to be, because you'll have a lot more different traffic there? Is there significant tourism associated with this? We'll give some points. All those points are then taken into consideration with environmental factors and other things, and you come back. 80 to 100 points is high priority, medium priority is 60 to 79, and then low priority 40 to 59. And then not recommended, because there will be situations you're not going to recommend conversion, which is 30 to 39 points, or 0 to 39 points. So cost sharing will come into that. Cost sharing in the policy says, if you're 0 to 39, the full cost is 100% conversion cost. But I want to bring this part clearly to your attention. Still a council decision. You could have 100% of the users that live in the community that want it converted to hard surface road, but it may not still make economic sense or budget sense for the RM. Because just because a road has been originally paid by the residents, you have to put it in your inventory for the hard surface roads now, so you don't want to take on a cost unless council sees it and monitors it properly. If you're 40 to 59 points, property owners will be required to pay 50%. If you score 60 to 69, 35%. If you score 70 to 79 points, it would be 20% of the cost of the conversion, where the RM picks up the other 80% for the general taxpayers, or taxation will cover. Data collection and management, so that scoring methodology develops the procedures for staff and an annual review with council. We'll be collecting procedures for data collection on all our roads that become candidates. We'll integrate it with our GIS and data validation on a regular basis, on an annual basis. It'll become a transparent and a public communication. Materials and publications and briefings can be now developed and shared online as necessary for people to know where does my road say. Multi-year planning can be established in this methodology. So, circular process. Start anywhere in the circle. So let's start from the top. Annual road assessment, comprehensive assessment for the gravel roads has been completed. Primary criteria screening has been completed, that the roads are over 400. Secondary criteria evaluation points, a system for roads not meeting primary criteria. So if you've done an assessment, you say it needs it, take a first look at the road, is it even reaching over 400? And council at that point could say, no, we're not gonna look at any roads that are being less than that. Or the same, we'll take a look at it, okay, that might be initiated by a residential request. Then you get to the secondary points. So you evaluate the points, then you go into the public consultation, because what'll happen is, if you hadn't determined, based on your annual road assessment and your primary criteria, that it's 100% required by the RM, then you have to have public consultation to do a local improvement district, as an example, in order to collect the funds for their share.
On that, this policy, this is done by council, there's no public consultation or input. We just-
Yeah, this is, the policy states, the measurements are done by Public Works, brought forward for council, council evaluates, and council makes decisions during the budget process. There can be public consultation on the numbers and afterwards, but it isn't a debate. There's a methodology, and the methodology has to be given to someone. Because somebody says, well, I feel it's more, I think I have a strategic importance.
Well, I've heard that.
And there could be some back and forth, on some of that point mechanisms, and that can be discussed. We'll obviously have to create some sort of an appeal mechanism, which is, you can come to council, but at the end of the day, the authority for all of this still sits with council. This isn't just a black and white policy that, oh, I've hit the magic number of 81% or 81, you gotta put it in now. That's not the case. You could reach 100% requirement, and council could still say, we don't have the funding to be able to do this.
Well, some of your policy here is, I can see the over the 400, okay, lots on that, but then you have a safety part in here.
Yes.
So, you know, if people come and say, oh, it's not safe, I went for a walk down that road, well, what are you doing taking your little kids running out in your yard and going on the road? Like, the safety part, I don't know how you would put that in on a country road. Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
if it's a busy country road, it might be,
Yeah.
it might feel, but the safety is just one consideration,
I know, but
and
how
it's
do
only
you-
worth about 5 to 10 points.
Yeah.
So it's not gonna make the determining factor that a road needs to be converted to asphalt. But safety should be taken into
Well, it's
consideration.
definitely safe, it's not, I'm just using that as part of the example. Like Public Works is gonna do a study on this, and they're gonna come up with numbers, but, like, anybody can do those numbers, like.
Yes, and the intent here is, you just want a consistent application of those numbers. And the administration has been hired by council to do those kinds of numbers in a consistent and fair manner, impartial, without having,
Because if safety, for example, is 5 or 10%, what you're saying, every time they're gonna put a 5 or 10% there. They're not gonna make it a 3 or a 2 or a 1, they're gonna make it 5 or 10 every time. And I'm just
well, as an
using
example,
safety-
as an
I'm just
example,
using
okay,
that
so
as
I'll
an
use
example.
safety as an example, it comes out to a total of 15 points, okay? 15 points, to get to 15 points, the top one, because there's only 4 categories, so it's not a matter of, oh, I think I'm a 1, I'm a 2, 0, 5, 10, and 15 initially, and we'll review, and if it gets, as we need to refine, we can look at refining. For 15 points, it's high accident history, directly related to gravel surface and significant dust control issues. That's the first thing. So you have to have empirical data that says there was high accidents here compared to any other road. Number 10 points would be moderate accident history related to gravel surface or significant dust control issues. We're already managing that, and there's less likelihood, the more spread out the development is within a gravel road, the less likely any of that's gonna happen. And the other is a minor safety concerns related to gravel surface. Okay, most people will get the 5 points, the ones that would compare. In some cases, no significant safety issues related with a gravel surface. It's a dead-end road. There are some that are gravel roads that we have that are not used very often at all. So they're gonna get 0 points. So, and there may be some times that Public Works begins to do the zero, but at least they'll be applying it consistently, and it's not a debate that's happening in a public setting. It's a matter of just.
So they'll have to go and get this information if there's any accidents that are going to happen in this?
Yeah. And same with maintenance costs, you know, as another one that could be used, right? Projected maintenance costs significantly higher than the average gravel maintenance. So, we already know what the average gravel maintenance is. Should I move on? Okay, so, with that is then the public consultation to see if the residents, so you might have, let's say you have 20 residents on a particular street, 3 come forward to push for it, but we still need to go through now a public consultation, a public process for local improvement. And that's where the public consultation comes in. Then final prioritization of council's decision. So after all that, it's still a council decision. That's the intent here. So this implementation of this policy is to ensure effective, transparent decision-making for road conversions, which is what council wanted to be shown. And it's improved infrastructure at the end of the day, enhanced safety, economic growth, and environmental sustainability. Those are always the factors that we go with, which align with the strategic planning and the strategic goals that council has already established. And so with this report, we also recommend approval. And in our approval, what we're recommending here is that council, there's like 12 pages or 6 pages in this report, here we go. Administration recommends the following: adopt the proposed asphalt road conversion policy to establish a comprehensive framework for converting gravel roads to asphalt within our community. 2, implement the detailed scoring methodology to objectively evaluate and prioritize road conversion projects. And that's already been written, and that policy now is public once it gets published. And develop a 5-year rolling implementation plan for road conversions. So not only that, you need to continue to take a look. And that could be 1 road in 5 years, or 0. It's up to council to decide. Based on assessment of results, and finally, implement the cost-sharing mechanisms. So this is the other important part, to make somebody understand what are some of those cost-sharing mechanisms. So, if ready, I will read the report, and you'll see a bit of a consistent application on the resolutions. But before I do, I understand this council.
Go ahead, Councilor
One
Spicer.
clarification question. And using a hypothetical, so if a number of residents come forward, or the RM does it, doesn't matter either one,
Yep.
and the score is more than 400, does that mean that we are not doing the secondary scoring assessment?
No, because that gives you the maximum points.
Give you the maximum, so.
But over 400 puts it at a high priority as a review and an analysis.
Yeah, and then it's, we look at it and whether, because that's 100% cost for the RM anyway, right?
Over 400, not automatically.
Not
It can be over 400 and then it's not a lot of traffic. Let's say it's a residential street with hundreds of cars on it, and it leads to nowhere. Or other factors.
Again, the end is the RM's decision anyway.
Correct.
I just was trying to make sure in my mind of how it works.
Yeah, so the first scoring methodology that happens is
The traffic count.
the traffic count. So traffic volumes makes it a primary consideration. So those are the primary roads that you want to take into consideration. And getting 400 or more vehicles per day puts it at a very high level. But when you take a look at the points on that, the points for traffic volumes, over 400 is 30 points.
Check your phone, she said.
And it's 100 points, or 0 points for less than 100. So in between there is 5, 10, and 20 points. But that's
So
only
we're still gonna do
the rest of the score.
point system, yeah. Okay.
So, because then connectivity comes in there, that would be take you up to 50,
Exactly.
right? If it was at a high impact, that would take you up to 60 as a maximum. Safety consideration, take you up to 75. Let's say it doesn't need safety consideration, let's say it only meets half of the safety, or even very low, like minor safety 5, that would take you to 75. Then you can go into maintenance costs, because it's a high traffic area, may require a lot of maintenance. And just as what we're doing right now, reclaiming, so you'd be keeping track of that kind of work, that could be 10 points, that's taking you 85. Now that it's over 80, it's an automatic 100% RM cost.
Okay, no, that makes sense, thank you.
Go ahead, Glenn.
So, if you have a road that, after your points are all done and everything, we're responsible, or residents are responsible for 50%. Now, the road has high traffic, but there's only a dozen homes there. It's gonna cost us $1 million to do that. We're gonna put 50% on a dozen homes, we really think that.
That's the issue that comes in. If there's 50 homes, then, and there's a high amount of traffic, they get more points with the amount of traffic that's coming from somewhere else. That's where the RM is now contributing.
Like I say, in the end,
It's paid for
after that's
that.
all done, you got 50%.
Yeah,
Residents are responsible for 50%.
correct.
But you only have a dozen homes on there, you have 500-foot frontages.
Yep,
Now, who's responsible for that cost? Just that dozen people?
a dozen people for the 50%, yes.
So, yeah.
Or
No,
vacant.
or don't convert it. You know, it's not necessarily to convert. You know, the intent is that the larger frontage requires maintenance.
Right.
And we're still inheriting that. And so that's why some cases there are large frontage properties that are getting traffic, but they were built by as gravel in the first place, mainly because there wasn't enough justification to turn them into the asphalt. And just because they're getting more traffic now, doesn't mean there's enough justification to convert them anyways.
We decide.
Because you have to take things into consideration. The smaller the lots, the more people to pay for it, the more likely they'll pay for their share. But you have to remember the policies around why we originally went to gravel roads, because they're cheaper to build and keeps the taxes down. Any more questions, council members? It's
I
okay.
don't see anything more, so let's move it forward, please.
Whereas the rural municipality of St. Clements is responsible for maintaining many kilometers of roads within its jurisdiction. And whereas the safety and mobility of residents depend on one well-maintained road infrastructure, and whereas asphalt roads require specific attention due to their usage patterns and varying classifications, and therefore be it resolved, Council of the Rural Municipality of St. Clements hereby adopts the asphalt road conversion policy as presented, effective immediately, to guide the process of converting gravel roads to asphalt within the municipality.
Can I have a mover? Counselor Boulanger, second, please. Counselor Bazarowicz, any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So now we can move on to the next item, which is, we provided a copy, a presentation was provided to council at the Committee of the Whole, at our public section Committee of the Whole,
Right.
but I provided it here for the decision-making process. We're recommending that we proceed by putting forward ourselves as an age-friendly community with an age-friendly Manitoba pledge that would allow us to move forward with not only taking a pledge to make this an age-friendly community, but allow us to apply for grants that are directly related with this. So we're recommending approval, and we brought forward a resolution for that. If it's okay, Madam Mayor, I can certainly go forward directly to the resolution and then answer any questions.
Yeah, I think what we should do is do the next two items and then perhaps move into camera and do our in-camera items, and that'll be our break also.
Sure.
Okay.
So whereas older persons are an important part of our community, and whereas it is our community's interest that these citizens continue to live active lives and participate fully in the activities of the community, and whereas the municipality of St. Clements accepts to participate in the Age-Friendly Manitoba Initiative, therefore be it resolved that the Rural Municipality of St. Clements Age-Friendly Initiative be endorsed by the Municipality of St. Clements to support participation in healthy active lifestyles for older adults and all citizens. And further be it resolved that the administrative staff member be an active participant and on the committee working group that represents all sectors of the community and report regularly to council on the activity of the committee working group. Be it further resolved that the plans of the Age-Friendly Initiative be publicly posted to develop public support. And further be it resolved that the Rural Municipality of St. Clements Age-Friendly Initiative work cooperatively with existing community organizations to ensure that their programs are services and more age-friendly.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, second, please, Councillor Spicer. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I just want to make a comment of one of the events that the mayor and I attended on the weekend, and it was the Red River Paddle Challenge that ends up in our municipality, and I don't think there was anybody below the age of 50 there that wasn't participating. They were all elderly,
Yeah.
getting up, and some of them there were even, I'm going to say in their 70s.
Oh, yeah, and some of them were paddlers.
Yes.
That paddled the 26 or whatever kilometers it is.
Elderly is 50?
Go ahead,
Aging
Councillor.
community.
Go ahead,
It
Councillor.
sounds like Councilor Strang is sending out a challenge. I think.
We always
We
say we
told
should have
her
a St.
that.
Clements boat out there,
Yeah.
but ours would have a motor on it.
A hidden motor.
Yeah.
We can start at Glenn's house.
Okay, we have a mover and we have a seconder to make our municipality an age-friendly community, so I will call the question. If there are no further questions, all in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And 8.6, a development agreement.
So this is dealing with,
Madam Mayor, I'm just going to, I'm in conflict.
Okay, thank you.
and so this is dealing with the policy that was established by council that when anyone constructs on existing parcel or subdivides an existing parcel, that they are required to connect within 1 year, or they are at minimum required to pay the yearly fees if they don't connect. And so what this is for the connection fee, collection of it, but they have to get into a development agreement to give the guarantee that they would be responsible for their services. So in this case, the property was subdivided. The one part that is no longer, the one part that is a future lot, they're required to, sorry, for the existing lot, they're required to connect within 1 year or begin to pay the connection fee, the sewage fees, the monthly charge, the quarterly charge.
Is the service available there?
Yes, it is. And so for this, the development agreement has been established, and we're recommending approval of the development agreement, whereas subdivision file S23-3020 requires a development agreement, and whereas the developer has signed the agreement as their confirmation of acceptance, there will be a resolved development agreement dated September 20th between the Arm of St. Clements and Zabrowski be accepted, and the mayor and seal be authorized to sign and seal same.
Can I have a mover, please? Counselor Belanger, second, please. Counselor Sutherland, any further discussion? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really clear on this. So you're a developer, you make a subdivision, you sell off your lots. The people coming in are obligated, but we're holding it to the developer. So if the developer doesn't sell his lots, he's gonna pay.
If you have an existing lot
Yeah.
that had a septic field, the policy was that when sewer was made available, you were supposed to connect. Well, within a period of time. But if you subdivide that property, the existing property requires it to be converted back or to be hooked up within a year, pay the connection fee, and if they choose not to, they'll be required to pay the quarterly
Okay, so this is
quarterly
only
fees.
if you.
If you have an existing house,
And
only if you have subdivided. Now, the part that's not developed yet, then it's a matter of leaving it alone. When that part is developed and further subdivided, then they're required to hook up into the existing sewer system.
Within a year or within?
Immediately at that point.
Okay.
Every subdivision, any subdivisions that are being done in the south are required to hook up. You can't create a new lot without hooking up.
Okay.
This is dealing with the existing lots, and the intent with the existing lots was that you didn't want to have to, if they were still a 2-acre lot, you didn't want to impose on it, but you wanted to keep the obligation there, because they can hook up to the sewer
This
system.
is forthcoming, we're not going back at these people that divided.
No, we're only going forward, okay, only future subdivisions.
You know, it was just that you said earlier something about that it was compulsory when you subdivided. But no, you cleared it up, thank you.
Compulsory only on the existing property owner. If you have a, let's say, a 4-acre lot, and you don't decide to subdivide, stay like that. You know, the sewer's in front. There's a provincial legislation that says you have to do it within 10 years, and that depends if the RM will force that, because originally the provincial legislation said 5 years and got changed to 10. So we created a voluntary program for people to hook up.
That's why I was doing this, because people were coming to me and saying this, oh, it's so voluntary.
Yeah, and it still is, except unless you subdivide.
Unless the province comes after you because you're making a husband lose your fee.
Yeah.
Okay.
You hit one?
Okay, I have a mover, I believe.
Oh, I haven't read the
have-
resolution yet.
Yeah,
I did?
Yeah, I have a mover, I have a seconder. If there is nothing else, I will call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried.
Okay, so we'll take a break at this point, Madam Mayor?
Yes, we will, and we can go in camera and we can discuss those items that are in camera for us this evening.
Oh, boy.
We can leave that one till the end.
Yeah, we'll leave the first one to the.
Yeah,
Are we doing a resolution for in camera?
yes, he's going to do a resolution.
Resolved that council recess the regular meeting and go into in-camera to discuss legal and personnel issues. Further be it resolved that all matters discussed are to remain confidential as per section 83(1)(d) of the Municipal Act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Sutherland seconds, all in favor, opposed, and that is carried.
Shall we work backwards?
And we will get Kayla to turn the camera off.
We have to go.
If you want to.
Yes. I think I can get that out of the way quickly.